Hey, this is Mike Hambright. Welcome back to the Flip Nerd VIP show. Today I have with me a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Gaylene Lonergan, who is a real estate attorney. She is owns a title company and a number of other things, has some great insights. She's a big supporter of women in real estate investing, and we have a lot to talk to her about that. So thanks for joining us today. Before we get started, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hi, Gaylene. Welcome to the show.
Well, hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
That sounded kind of Canadian, not show. I said show. Okay. So anyway, glad to have you on. We've been talking about it for a while, and glad you could join us.
Yeah, I'm glad we could finally get together.
Good. Well, why don't you tell? I obviously know you very well, but why don't you tell all the folks that are watching us or listening in a little bit more about you?
Okay. Well, I am a board-certified real estate attorney, both residential and commercial. I graduated from law school in 1983, which means I've been practicing law longer than I like to admit, but a little more than 30 years, all in real estate. Graduated from Texas Tech, came to Dallas, and Dallas was in the middle of in 1983, Dallas and Texas in general was in the middle of a big oil and gas boom and real estate boom. And even though I didn't know anything about real estate, I think I'd taken one course in real estate in law school. I started pounding the pavement looking for a job, and they were looking for lawyers to do real estate because they couldn't keep up. So I said, sure, I'll give it a try. And then I spent the next 7 years drafting construction. Well, I spent the next 3 years drafting construction and development loans. Then I spent the next 2 years modifying those loans. And then I spent the next 2 years foreclosing those loans. And I'm one of the few people that stuck with real estate during that really major downturn, which gave me a great education, a great foothold to go forward with my career.
Yeah. So a lot of investors that got wiped out, are you saying there's a lot of attorneys that just stopped focusing on that as well? Or
yeah, a lot of real estate lawyers became bankruptcy lawyers in 1990.
Okay.
Because there was no real estate. For about a period of 3 years, you couldn't get a real estate loan approved unless you had so much other capital to put up. I felt sorry for the big bank that I worked with a lot, because I'd look at the bankers and the real estate lenders were sitting there working crossword puzzles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
at that time though, Gaylene, you were with a larger firm, is that right?
A large firm until about 1990, and then I went to work for one of the big. All the Texas banks failed by 1990. We really had maybe one or two Texas banks left.
Yeah. And
I went to work for one of the big banks that came into town and learned a lot about retail development, because for the next 10 years I did all the new bank branches for that bank. I handled the legal work for. So
okay.
It's a great education too.
Yeah. Do you think in terms of real estate, I suspect when the real estate markets, kind of cycle down, probably a lot of I knew you were in years past, when the market started to take a downturn, you started to plan up your litigation business. I mean, you kind of saw the bubble. You knew what was going to be on the other side of the bubble. I guess a lot of folks probably didn't know that in the 80s. They hadn't been through many real estate bubbles,
right,
up or down. And so you had the foresight to know of what's coming.
Unfortunately, I lived through that horrible time, and that was a really major real estate crash for Texas. Luckily, this last time, wasn't so focused in Texas. In fact, we did pretty well out of the downturn in 2008. But
Sure.
you're right. In 2005 and 6, I could see it coming.
Yeah.
And I started preparing actually for it by 2007. So I tried to position myself to do litigation, bankruptcy, short sale work, loan workout, short sales, because I knew that was coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, talk a little bit. We were talking a little bit before the show about how there just aren't really a lot of women, not just in real estate investing, and not that they don't exist. Obviously, they do exist. When I tell my wife that, she gets mad at me, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not the, I'm just the messenger." Because she obviously works, very hard in our business, and there are a lot of women that are in this business. So don't get me wrong, but it tends to be predominantly a male type industry in the investor community, which is a shame. But I know you've worked hard as a real estate attorney. There probably are not a whole lot of real estate attorneys either. So talk a little bit about what you see happening over, the last 30 years in your career in terms of women being more involved and kind of your role in trying to get women more involved in real estate investing and the folks that support us.
Yeah, sure, Mike. Like I said, when I came out of law school in 1983, there not only were not very many women real estate lawyers, there weren't very many women lawyers. I think there was about 12% of the lawyers in Texas at that time were women. And, like I said, luckily for me, because I love doing real estate, that's the attorneys that they needed at that time. But I had to deal with a lot of male attorneys thinking that I wasn't tough enough to do real estate, which really makes me laugh now.
Yeah.
But as the years have gone on, yes, there's been a lot, more women are getting into it. But then I had some women here about 5 years ago, after my practice had kind of shifted into doing more, working with more real estate investors. I had several women come to me, that said, "Look, Gaylene, we would like a venue that we can learn more about real estate." And it's kind of it's like the same concept as high school girls that go to all girls school. They, the data shows that they're more apt to come out and, be successful and be aggressive when there aren't men around. I don't know, you guys just intimidate us, I guess. I don't know. They just said, "We'd like to have a venue where we could learn more about real estate investing and ask questions and not feel intimidated." And so we started a group of just women investors meeting once a month, and that's been going on now for about 3 years. And we have every year, particularly now that real estate is kind of back in vogue.
Right.
We have a lot of women that are very interested in it and are doing a lot of successful things. And there's a lot of very good women contractors out there, which is a very, that used to be extremely rare and still is fairly rare. But, and so we just try to introduce women to other women in real estate and help so that they can help each other be successful. And I have many women real estate investor clients now that are, learning from the process from step one and being very successful at it.
That's great. And your club, the women's part of the club, I can't say that I'm aware of another women's club, but they've got to exist. But you have a pretty good sized club. I mean, I know for a lot of clubs, not everybody comes to every meeting, but how about what's the size of your women's club?
We have about 200 women that are members of the women's club that, share information online. And then they, at our meetings, you're right. People have to live life gets in the way sometimes. And so we probably have 30 to 50 women come to the meetings.
Yeah.
Over here near my office. And they get very upset with me if I skip a month, which sometimes my life gets in the way sometimes.
That's right. Yeah. So, those types of things tend to be right at prime family time for a lot of folks.
Right.
So
that's right.
Yeah. So that just is what it is. But yeah. And so why do you think, through your club, what do you think is changing now to get more women into the business than there were in the past?
Well, I just think a lot of it is perception.
Yeah.
I think, everything was negative in the media for the last several years about real estate. I mean, even though here in Texas we weren't in that situation,
Right.
a lot of it was perception that they just didn't think that it was a good time to invest in real estate. I also think the clubs in general had kind of went through a kind of an ebb period right after 2008.
Yeah.
And so now there's the excitement on real estate is back. And so there's a lot of different opportunities for them to get education. And I think that's one thing. And of course, women are becoming, in the large part, in many families, the primary breadwinner and the primary decision maker on financial matters.
Yeah.
So I think that also has kind of spurred them. Well, I've always been interested in real estate. I'm going to go try this, because it looks like it's a great way if you work hard to build wealth, which you and I both know that it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it probably there's a lot more women involved than people think. I know in my specific example, I tend to be kind of the face of our business, even though my wife has a prettier face than I do. But we couldn't run our business without her efforts, and she just tends to be more of the financial side, which is obviously critical in a real estate business,
Right.
and the sales side, which is obviously critical in a real estate business. So I think there's a lot of she referred to herself one time as the puppet master, and so I don't know what that makes me, but well, I think yeah. So
yeah, but I think you're right, because I know I work with several of your franchisees as well, and
Right.
their husband and wife team.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of times that works out very, very well for a couple.
Right.
It's a great business for you guys to work together.
Right. I agree. So, in terms of what's going on in the market right now, obviously a lot of folks I'm asking everybody the same question. So if you've been listening to some of our shows here, you probably heard me ask this question a few times before. But when you get a bunch of, when I have an opportunity to talk to experts, I love to hear their opinion. What do you think is going on in the market right now? I mean, I think things have tightened up everywhere that I'm aware of across the country in terms of deals are a little more scarce, and hedge funds have been buying stuff up and paying ridiculous prices, which puts some deals out of reach for guys like me and folks that I work with. But what do you think is happening in the market right now? And since this is not your first rodeo, why don't you get your crystal ball out and tell us a little bit about what you think is going to happen here over the next year or two?
Well, I think you're right, Mike, that it has kind of tightened up. I think last year there was a little bit of maybe a little bit too much exuberance early on last year. And I think you're right. It caused the hedge funds to come in and start paying up too much for properties. And also, I do a lot of short sale negotiation. And this last year has been very difficult to get the banks to work with us on the short sales, because they have this idea that the properties are worth more than they are.
Yeah.
But I have seen some promising things, at least, from the deals that I'm seeing here in my office. I'm seeing, I heard, it's kind of a related topic, but I heard that, people are now starting to get divorced because they can afford to now. Okay.
Wow, that's interesting.
They stayed together from 2008 because they couldn't afford to be divorced. Well, I think it's the same sort of thing is having an impact on the real estate market, beginning to now, because there are still distressed properties out there.
Sure.
Okay. But people, either for whatever reason, have been holding on to them, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe what I'm seeing in the last month or so is I don't know about you guys, but more calls coming from those type people, as a result of a divorce situation, some different things. And it looks to me like maybe the market is, the lending is getting a little, the requirements on lending are loosening.
Sure, yeah.
We knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a cycle.
Yep.
And
yep.
We're kind of headed towards, I think, the mid-cycle of that.
Yeah.
So hopefully we, even though I don't think we really learned a lot from our past, but hopefully we learned not to take it to the excess, but to be happy with the good deals.
Yeah.
Not the great deals.
But this is America. I don't think anybody's ever gonna not do things in excess. So it is crazy when you start to see some things happening that you just can't believe. Is that really gonna happen again? And people just don't learn from it. So
that's right. I mean, when I was sitting there in 2006 closing deals with no money down and 100% financing, no money down, and people, the difference in $50 on a payment made the difference whether people were going to close their loan or not.
Right.
I said, this is 1985 all over again.
Yeah.
And sure, I mean, I just couldn't understand how that could happen again, but it will, and it did, and it may again. So
it will. I'm sure it will. Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit. I know you have a lot of pride too for being a certified woman-owned business. So tell us a little bit more about what that means and what it means from a business standpoint, and I guess maybe what it means to you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Women business owners are another area that is really taken off, and real estate and women in real estate are right there along with it too. I've been a certified woman-owned business for, I don't know, 10 years now. I mean, I started off on my own in 2000. I'm the sole breadwinner of my family. I had a 6-month-old baby at the time.
Yeah.
And she's fought for the last 14 years, she's fought my law firm for attention, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So it's really, I'm very proud of it. And you have to be at least 51% owned to be a certified woman-owned business. Of course, I'm 100% owned.
Yeah.
In business. That is done through the Southwest Women's Business Council here in North Texas, and it's a very active group of women as well.
So it's a group, essentially, association.
Right, absolutely. Okay. They're women, and there are women attorneys, women law firms, all different types of women in that association as well.
Sure.
They have in fact, it's coming up. They have a trade show just like just about everybody else does, and it's a great opportunity to go out and see all the women that are making headway in business.
Yep, that's good. I know you're proud of it too. So I know you work hard. So.
Well, yeah, it's beginning to get. The older I get, the tougher it's getting. But it's a law is not a business that is a 9-to-5 business.
Yeah.
And my clients, I mean, that's the thing. I really got into my own firm so that I could help individuals be successful in their businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I was with a big firm and worked for a bunch of big corporations and did work for them, but never got the satisfaction that I get now of helping individual investors start off from scratch.
Yep.
And become successful. That is really very rewarding.
Well, because I guess they're real people at that point. A lot of times when you're working, I've worked for, not in law, but for big companies too, and you start to make very academic decisions, and it's like, well, you never think about who it's going to impact, or good or bad, or anything. So I know that's one of the things that I appreciate is for being an entrepreneur and owning our own company, is that we get a chance to meet more entrepreneurs and individuals and see how things impact people. And
right. So, well, that is one thing I did discover early on when I was in real estate, is that you have to be a people person, because you're talking to your clients, lenders, surveyors, title companies.
Right.
You're kind of the gatekeeper of the whole thing. And so if you're not a people person, forget it. Now, when I go home at night, I don't answer the phone because I've talked to enough people during the time.
Yeah,
But
I understand that.
but it's a great. I mean, I enjoy it. I spend most of my day on the phone, or my clients have this great tendency to just drop by.
Yeah.
I allocate about 2 hours at least of every day for drop-ins.
Yeah.
Because they just know they can come in, and I'll take time to go see what their current issue is, and visit with them and make sure that what they need is taken care of.
Yeah, that's great. Well, why don't you talk? I don't know if we mentioned already, but obviously you're also the owner of a title company. You run a title business that serves the investor community. And why don't you talk a little bit about the title business, just at a high level for somebody that, I do obviously a lot of work through title companies, but I never really think of it from the business side. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that's a fit with your law practice, and
Absolutely.
And then just educate us on the title business.
Well, the title, right before I started my firm, for about a period of 6 years, I worked with a national underwriter as a commercial closer and attorney, and I got great education in title. Well, then when I started my own firm in 2000, I initially started out just doing law, and then I like I said, I started working with investors, and I kind of gave it some thought. It's like, well, what I really need to be is somewhere that an investor can come and have all of their issues dealt with. Mm-hmm. And so I became what's called a fee attorney, which is I have a title closing office, and I have a relationship with one of the underwriters. Right now I'm with the largest independent agency in Texas, Capital Title. Thrilled to be with them. So I'm a closing office for Capital Title, and essentially it's very synergistic with my real estate law practice, where I can help a client all the way from helping them form their LLC and get started, and then help them with their contracts, and then help them with all of their closings. And so they don't have to deal with 3 different people on a transaction. They don't have to deal with a lawyer and a title company, because I'm right here overseeing all of that.
Right.
So it's been a very, it's kind of a unique niche that I have. I have maybe 2 or 3 other true competitors that are lawyers, real estate lawyers, mm-hmm. as well as a title office. But that was kind of, my goal was to kind of create a community of real estate investors. And I call it Miss Rogers neighborhood. So if you're one of my clients, I'm going to take care of you on your title, on your legal matters, on any litigation that you have, any of that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel with a new party. We take care of them.
Yeah, that's great. And why don't you talk a little bit about the title industry? I know there's been obviously mass consolidation over time, and just how that's changed over the last, let's just say, 5 or 10 years.
Oh yeah, well, back a little bit before the 2008 issues came up, the title industry really started changing. Of course, the title industry, up until very recently, I used to consider the title industry about 20 years behind. Everything was very paper intensive. The technology was really slow in coming in the title industry. But because of some things that happened with the downturn and whatnot, there has been a major consolidation. So really there's about 5, if that, major underwriters now. If that, maybe even less than that, because one holding company owns 5 or 6 of what used to be independent
mm-hmm.
underwriters.
Right.
So the choices for a consumer have really lessened, because the key is what are the underwriting standards for the title company.
Right.
And I've always tried to deal with a title underwriter that understood about real estate investors, didn't think that they were somebody that they didn't want to deal, that they didn't want.
Right.
And that got kind of hard right after 2008, quite frankly, because everybody thought that everybody wanted to blame the investor for what happened, and that's totally wrong.
Right.
To have done, but anyway, that's why I like Capital. They're very progressive. They understand about business, and so it's great to be with. And they're also large enough, because I've had the misfortune of being with a small local agency that wasn't sufficiently capitalized and had financial problems. So now I'm with the largest independent title agent in Texas, in the country, actually. And so I don't have to worry about their financial standing, and I don't have to deal with a behemoth underwriter that says it's my way or the highway.
Right. Right. Yeah, and it's interesting. I think a lot of investors realize this after you've been in business for a while, about how hard title companies that we work with work to get deals closed, because we've,
well, you don't see what's going on in the background.
Yeah.
You just know you're supposed to show up at your closing or sign your papers, and
as
that's
a buyer, at my end, whether I'm a buyer or a seller, we know that. But of course, we work with people that, it takes some wrangling to get them there, or it takes them providing some additional information. It's more effort than a traditional home seller that's selling a house than the folks.
Always with you guys, with your sellers, there's almost always some title issue. A lot of time there's a probate.
Right.
Somebody has died. That's why they want to sell their house.
Liens against the property. Yeah.
Taxes that haven't been paid.
Yeah.
There's some pretty colorful stories that have come out of the last 10 years of doing this with them. But and then occasionally there's the lucky investor that, their first few out of the chute are totally clean. I'm dealing with one right now, and I'm like, you need to understand this is the exception, not the rule.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What's interesting in this business, and it's really the same for you too. I always tell everybody I work with this. It's a tough business to scale, because every time I buy a house from someone, or every time I sell a house to someone, that's the first time I've ever worked with that person.
That's correct.
I could do 1 million transactions, and the millionth one is not that much easier than the first one.
That's correct.
And you're dealing with a different agent every time, a different lender every time, a different appraiser every time. And you can't just say to somebody, "Hey, we've got how we did the last 20. Let's just do it like that." It doesn't work that way.
That's right. Well, that's why it's nice for you to have your to try to use your title company, your same title company over and over, because that's at least one constant that you got.
Absolutely.
I try to get that across to my clients, that, we can make your life a little easier because we know you.
Yep.
Know how you work, at least. We may not know how your seller works. We may not know how your lender works, but we know how you work.
Right.
So.
Yep. Awesome. Well, Gaylene, tell everybody how they can find you, the Lonergan Law Firm, and how they could find your women's club.
Okay. Well, the Lonergan Law Firm, we're right here in the heart of North Dallas, right at the intersection of 75 and 635, 12801 North Central. I'm right here in the lobby of our beautiful building, and my phone number is 214-503-7509, or you can reach me. Email is a great way to get a hold of me, more so than a phone. And my email is grogers@lonerganlaw.com. And then, like I said, I have the Women's Club. It's a part of Texas Real Estate Investor Circle. And you can go on to meetup.com and just type in TXRAIC Women's Group, and you'll get all the information about us and how to join us and when our next meeting will be.
Great. Well, we'll add links for all that stuff below the video here so folks can easily find you. So, well, thanks so much for joining us, Gaylene. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon.
Okay.
Okay. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence? where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market. You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit flipnerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to flipnerd.com.